This is AI Marketing Experts, where bold marketers and next-gen AI collide. Each week, join us as we decode trends, test tools, and share real wins from the AI-powered front lines. No fluff, no hype, just straight talk and smarter marketing. Tap subscribe and let's geek out on AI.
Well, howdy, everybody, and welcome to the AI Marketing Experts podcast. We are joined here with all of our experts on the podcast like normal, but we have a special guest today. We have Robby Higgins, who is the AI director for the seven-figure agency. He also owns a company called Bridge.Ninja that helps folks with rolling out kind of this stuff that we're going to be talking about here today. So, Robby, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's kick this off. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and give us some backstory, some good juicy stuff here.
So I think the most important part, most relevant part to, this thing called AI, everything's so new, is that I do not have a background in computers at all. My background is actually in construction. And it really wasn't until about, like maybe 2022, 2023. So we're talking within the last few years where I actually started working behind a computer as my job. Up until then, I was swinging hammers and running power tools. So I think that's an important part, that you can really expedite the learning process when using AI in the ways it could be used and optimized.
So unpack that a little bit for us, Robby. So, because for our listeners, I think that's interesting. We've got business owners, as we talk about, that small business owners that might be the guys swinging the hammers, or, in Chris's situation, roofers and stuff like that. There's guys that run their businesses. There's other guys that are out in the field, carpet cleaners in my world, who feel that they are painfully behind. They're not computer guys or gals or whatever. But AI is a huge, huge transformation in our world that is it's a rolling snowball that's getting massive and bigger every single day, faster than anything else ever before. So what would you give tell us a little bit about that journey of going from swinging hammers to deciding, or to now being a guy that, we can talk a little bit about it, but you can geek out at a level that's even beyond some of us, as far as the tables that you're using and things like that, and bringing databases and spreadsheets into the and AI usage and stuff like that. So how did somebody go from that to that so quickly? How did you sort of indoctrinate yourself into that world?
So I guess one of the driving factors of it was the fact that I recognized, at least the way I was running my construction business, it was a ceiling. It was always limited on what I physically showed up to do. I didn't really understand scaling. So in my experience, I was having this limitation. So I convinced myself that, man, if I could really figure out how to leverage technology, I could probably accomplish a lot more. And then that was about the same time AI started coming out. So it really worked out, like it all happened at the same time. And I guess I would say the superpower that I had, that other people who have been working on computers for a long time did not have, was I had no ideas of what was supposed to be possible. So I really played in the realm of what ifs. And when I first started playing with all these what ifs using ChatGPT 3.5 in the end of 2023, it was awful. It was terrible. It was a lot of smashing my head into wall moments, but still, considering the fact that I had no background at all, I was actually learning a lot, even though I was, smashing my head into a wall trying to make it work. It just allowed me to ask what if questions. Well, can I do this? Can I do that? Well, what about this? Well, what if we did this? And I would start learning and I would start seeing patterns and I go, hey, I got it this far. What about this? And I never used it in the binary sense that I think most people approach using a computer like. It's in this very binary thing, because that's the expectation we've had since the early 2000s. Yeah. If I do this, then this will happen. If I do this input, I'll get this output. And it had much more of a human interaction almost with you.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like that. So we're instead of being constrained by going, oh, this is the box that I have to live within, you're going, hey, I don't have any box. I swung a hammer. Let me build my own box. Let me jump outside the box. Let me go around the box. Right. So that's a very in the field construction kind of thing, is like you all stand around and stare at the stairwell that's not quite lining up properly and going, okay, how do we fix this? Right. Outside of the box thinking. So, yeah. So
I think this is a great place to jump off too, because as mentioned, a lot of our small business owners that we work with and help them stand out online, especially with agriculture, they don't spend a lot of time behind a computer. Yes, they're very familiar with technology, but your what if just again opens up whole worlds for them. And it really inspires that they can take this new thing out there and say, okay, what if I do this? What if I do that? So I'm very glad that you led off with that, because it removes those constraints that a lot of us have, because we want to know, okay, what does A lead to B, to C, all the way down to Z? So that is a great place to start. So do you have an example of your first what if? I mean, when you sat down and you got past the first part of frustration, was there one that you're like, okay, I can kind of see this, how this is flowing? And that's how you were encouraged to start with the what if questions?
Yeah, well, one of the big, technology advances that really cracked it open for me was like, where it really started going, oh my God, I can play so far out of my league now, was I was trying to create, I don't even remember what project I was working on at the time, but I knew I was creating using a Google form. And I knew the Google form would, add data to a spreadsheet. Like I got that far. I started wrapping my head around that. And I was like, well, man, it would be really cool if I could set up a form that would capture information, and then I would have all the data on some sort of scale, and the scale could be converted into a results-based email that would be sent to the person. And I was just like, again, playing with what ifs, playing way out of my league. And I remember, God, it was so frustrating. It ended up taking me like 3 days, but I learned so much. ChatGPT 3.5 walked me through the process of setting up Google Apps Script, which I didn't even know what that was. But I was like, oh, okay, so I write this code, and I was terrified. I was like, if I write code, are things going to break? I don't know what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. But I was able to have ChatGPT write a code that actually allowed me to, when somebody filled out this form, it set a Likert scale, it converted the data into an email and attached, and then sent the results of the form they filled out directly to their email inbox. And I was like, oh my God, I did that.
I can hear and see the people that are watching right now going, oh my gosh, that gives me an idea. So that inspires all of us.
So Robby, that was great. Like in 3.5, you were talking about like you did vibe coding before vibe coding was a thing. Now everybody is talking about the platforms that you just talk and it writes code for you, right? That is now sort of a 2025 sort of thing. But in the early days, app scripts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. If something screwed up, you took a screenshot and said, this is the error I got. What do I do? And it fixed that for you. So, and just, yeah, now we're at that world where, thanks to, Laura there, Gemini, I think has just become my new favorite over ChatGPT. Oh my gosh. And what Gemini can do with the ability to, when you ask it a question, I watched somebody just the other day take a white paper on RNA, and what are RNA and what is mRNA technology and how does and all this kind of weird stuff. Took this 80-page white paper, threw it into Gemini, and Gemini started on the spot creating apps to help teach so you could slide across, you could do, and they're saying this is the future of search. As an example, you ask a question, it'll create the app, a micro app that can be used right away to solve just that problem, and then it just disappears again. It's become that fast. So, imagine our phones in a year or 2, 3 from now, no apps on the phone because it'll spin one up as you need it, answer the question, and then disappear again. So you started that, Robby. So putting the code in didn't make satellites fall out of the sky. It actually got you to this point. So there you go.
And now I'm starting an AI business, and went from being an event coordinator to the AI director and integrator for a 7-figure agency.
Tell us about that. What kind of things have you aimed at in that world with 7-figure agency? And also starting off the your own AI consultancy as well. Like, where's that now? Like, so fast forward us to this month.
Yeah. So, and I think this is the interesting thing, like, especially with an already established organization or a company or something like that. And I have been the evangelist on AI inside a 7-figure agency. And and I have been for the last, year or more. And it's I think it's worth noting that it's a lot to wrap the mind around. It's not obvious aside from it helped me write an email, or, it's just like there's this it seems like my judgment is that it seems like a lot of people are still using it on the surface level. And to get people to really understand, I think I understood it out of necessity because I was so far behind everybody else that I leaned way heavier on AI to help me keep up with everybody. And then, didn't expect it, but I ended up blowing past everybody. Like I can't even even something as complicated as Go High Level, right? It's a pretty complicated CRM software. It does a lot of things. And, I was trying to wrap my head around Go High Level because there was something I had to do. I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to go scrape all the documentation, load it up, clean it up, organize it, load it up into an available resource, and just have a conversation with AI attached to that resource so that I can figure this stuff out with Go High Level. Turns out it works for Vercel. It works for Google. It works for everything. Just load the documentation up and have a conversation with the documentation. Again, way out of my league, but I have been able to do programming on Vercel. I've been able to work inside of AWS, which, has crazy certifications that you need to work inside AWS, or GCP, Google Cloud Platform. I guess the real point that I would say to make for your audience, especially, is that you can now play way outside of your league. And what they call context engineering now, went from prompt engineering to context engineering, is really just making sure that the right information is in the right place for the right time, and that you can have a natural conversation with an AI, interactive, a user interface that's attached to the right information at the right place at the right time. That's all context engineering essentially is, right? So
I would totally agree with that. And in fact, I was watching a video last night that was kind of eye-opening, and we've touched on Notebook LM before, but if you're watching this, maybe we're 2 weeks behind on production, but Gemini 3 came out recently, and of course, a lot of those updates and upgrades came into the other Google products, and one of them being Notebook LM. But what Robby was just saying, I think, was important, because the video I was watching last night from one of our contemporaries, Jonathan Mast, who's an AI expert like us and has helped train us all for several years. He was just doing a quick walkthrough of what he was doing with Notebook LM, where he would load in this case, Google Docs with a lot of information. They were his courses. So he would load up a whole bunch of docs in there. And then he would be able to just literally ask questions about one of those trainings, or even about all of those trainings all at once. And it would then do the heavy lifting for him and pull out that piece of information. The other thing I thought was cool, because I stay up to date, like we all do, on some of the latest and greatest AI tools. There's a couple of different ones now that are, we all remember Dragon, Naturally Speaking, and different things where we were talking to our computers. Well, that's evolving as well. And the one that there's two different ones I'm looking at, but the one that he was using that I've been testing as well is called WhisperFlow. And they just got another $82 million in funding or something I saw yesterday. But what it does is it gives you the ability to talk to anything on your computer, and it's very, very intuitive, much more advanced than what we were used to with Dragon or something like that. So he was talking to his Notebook LM through this other app, and it's a very inexpensive software. And so he was literally just having conversations. Now, of course, once you're in Notebook LM, you can take it to the next degree. You can make it create a presentation or a podcast or a video or all different things inside there with the content you have in there. But I just think that what Robby was just saying was important, because it's something that we're all going to need to adapt to. We're all going to be talking to our browsers more and our phones more and all of these LLMs more. And they just become our learning partner or our professor or whatever you want to call it, because it's just advancing so fast, and we're then able to just extract what we need, very quickly and very easily. So thanks for sharing that, Robby. It kind of made me think of that from yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm an avid Aqua user for the voice transcription. I have Aqua, and it's amazing. The ability to talk removes all of the bandwidth that it takes, even though we don't really notice it if we're in the habit of typing things. Removing that bandwidth allows us to kind of brain dump, and the AI is really good at managing our messy thoughts and ideas. You don't have to talk like you would type, and it'll be able to pick it up and make sense of it and organize it. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, those are the two I'm looking at, Aqua and Whisperflow.
And I would just like to mention too, based on what you guys are mentioning, the to the point that as small business owners, you might be rolling in, and Robby, I'd love your input on how you were able to take such a concept, and like you said, a far out concept, to have seven-figure agency adapt it or adopt it so quickly and can see your vision without really knowing what you're talking about. I'd be interested in that. But I think something we need to keep in mind with small business owners is if their employees or anybody that's helping them are asking, hey, how do you run this software? I think you brought in great tips. Start with AI. Ask the AI to start training, the newer employees, to walk them through some basics. And then again, keep the human in the loop. You can always make sure they've mastered that skill. But I would like to step back and ask, okay, so how did you get them to embrace and adapt what you were actually asking them to? Because I think that a lot of us are in that same, we're talking Star Trek and the Jetsons and way out there that people are like, yeah, let's just stick what we're doing today. So tell us that story.
It was not, well, at least from my perspective, it didn't feel like it was that fast. I would try to explain it and like demonstrate it, and I would get like the glazed eyes look and like deer in the headlights. And I think where the real difference started happening was it really came with the working directly with my colleagues and directly with like one-on-one or one and two, and somebody on the team was trying to solve a problem, and I would have to raise my hand and say, hey guys, we could probably shave a few weeks of work off that if you let me bring my AI skills to the table. We could probably, instead of that taking 2 months, we could probably knock it out in about 90 minutes. Is that something you'd be interested in? And even then, it always seemed like it was a one-off, like to them. Like I felt like I was seeing the light, but I was like, hey, we did it here. And I kept having to raise my hand and saying, hey, why don't you let me work with you? And we can shave a bunch of time off of what it's going to take to accomplish that. And, like one of the, here's a beautiful demonstration. We were trying to move a bunch of data. We had kind of a Frankenstein Airtable space made up. It was, things kept getting added, things got messed up. There was a lot of manual entries, and we were trying to clean up an Airtable. And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I can just build a brand new base. We'll set up an API, and I can probably migrate everything into a nice, clean, organized database. And like, oh, that would be amazing. That's our goal. How long will that take? I'm like, I don't know, maybe probably get it done in about an hour. And it was total disbelief. But then we sat down and we got it done in, I think, 72 minutes is how long it took to have AI. I had Claude Code go in and design the database, set up all the schema, write all the documentation. We built out the project, and then we did a full build out and migration all in about 72 minutes.
That's
Wow,
awesome.
That's incredible.
Well, that brings up a question for me. So we've had Josh Nelson on the podcast. Leader of seven-figure agency. And so with Josh, we talked a lot about AI with marketing and things like that. And I feel like with you, we're seeing the other side of the coin, where it's more of the operations side of things. And so to look at the same organization from both perspectives is really interesting to me. I can't remember what question I had about that, but I just find it just really cool that we're able to see both sides of it.
Somebody so
on that?
progressive in the marketing side, yet hesitant on how it can be worked in the ops side. If you think,
A little clarification there. Josh and Yesenia have both been great with, cracking the door open, even though not fully getting it. And Josh has been amazing because he works more directly with the sales department, sales and marketing, whereas Yesenia is more involved with the operations and the membership. And I'm more directly on the operations side, the membership. And Josh has been really good with, again, using a lot of that surface level, and it's not devaluing it, but jumping into ChatGPT and getting results, like actual results. And I think that is a lot of that still playing on the surface with the tools as they are, rather than where I'm back in the weeds, and it's my construction brain. I got that engineer brain.
Mm-hmm. It's a good reminder to small business owners that there's room for AI in so many different aspects of your business. It's we mostly talk about marketing here and AI with marketing, but there's ops is such a big part that AI can be useful for. So yeah.
So I got a couple of other very tangible examples just from my local community. It's one of my side jobs that I do. It just it's good for my soul. I'm a first mate on a sailing charter. We run a catamaran. That's and cool. The woman that I work for, she does concierge services locally here in beautiful South Florida for other boats. And plus she runs the charter business. And she was manually writing all her notes, all her surveys and stuff like that. And I was able to actually show her that you can use Apple Notes and they can transcribe your audio. So while you're walking through a boat, just talk to your Apple Notes, get the transcription. And when you're done, I helped her set up, this is how we organize our notes, a custom GPT. And then she was able to drop her notes from walking around a boat and making a plan. Doing an inventory. What supplies do we need? What are the steps that need to be taken? Who do we need to contact? And she was just verbally doing it like she would naturally, capturing it in the transcript, drop the transcript into a custom GPT, and then it'll print out a beautiful, easy to follow set of notes that can be put on Google Docs. It can be dropped into Asana or Trello. Whatever you want to do with it, but it's nice and clean and organized rather than to try to, manually do it on paper.
Yeah, that's amazing. Were those notes then delivered to other team members, or how did you set it up for that business?
For her, she's pretty much a one-man show, and she works with a lot of subcontractors. But she came right out and said, she's like, you have that one thing saved me. She said it's probably saved her 40 hours a month of how much manual work. Even when she was working in spreadsheets, everything was manual, and we were able to convert a 40-hour process into a 40-minute process, which was massive for her, almost to the point where she couldn't believe it. I remember it was wild to have, she's like, this is all I ever knew. All I ever knew is that this is what it took. And I didn't realize that my job was consumed by all this menial, essentially data entry, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that was, and I think that applies. If I were to get back into construction again, every job I do would be tracked inside a ChatGPT project or a Claude project. Every aspect, every update, I would update the knowledge base every day. Whatever I'd get done, if I had to put an inventory together for going to Home Depot or Lowe's, like things like that, I would be capturing that using an AI tool, because that frees my brain up to focus on the aspects of the job, whatever the job may be, that gave me more satisfaction.
100%.
And I'll add on to, just for taking that, is I tend to open up Gemini now and just say, can you review this? Did I miss anything? So there might be some points, especially when it comes to inventory or that run to Home Depot or a store. It can actually evaluate what the checklist was, or the overview, the walkthrough, and offer suggestions to make it better, stronger, faster, or to streamline it. So I think that is a tremendous practical use for any small business owner with their ops, because they might be one person, they might have a large team, but to streamline, save that brain power, like you said, the bandwidth, huge help. Great point.
So switching gears a tiny bit here, right? We're talking mainly small businesses and how AI is helping small businesses and so forth, right? As we're thinking of them, kind of have them in our mind, what's one small thing that could do a major thing for them? Like the 80-20 rule here. What small thing can they do today, right now, that could create massive leverage, other than kind of what you talked about a little bit there? But what do you think that we could do, that we could recommend right now for them?
I think hands down. Now, I'm a student of flow as well. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Stephen Kotler and, going back to the 80s, the Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, things like that. And from that perspective, anything you can do to reduce the bandwidth, reduce cognitive load, and it's like, what's that kind of frog in water kind of idea? I think we go through life, and this is all we've ever known, so we don't know any better, right? And I think that the number one, hands down, most impact, that Pareto's principle, 80% of your results for 20% of your effort, is going to be get it out of your head. Stop walking around with everything in your head. And that is in my judgment, that was what AI is a total game changer, because it becomes the most amazing brain dumping ground you could ever ask for. It takes our messy human craziness and just organizes it into a nice clean checklist with bullets and concepts and ideas. And it's like, wow, I don't have to keep that in my brain anymore. And building trust and not have to walk around with all that stuff living in, at least I'll speak for myself, living in my head, and know that I'm not going to lose it. And that has been a game changer for me. And that, in my judgment, is 80% of your results for 20% of the effort.
Love that.
Nice.
Love that. And it sounds like you could do that with Apple Notes, right? As you're talking about with your friend there. But I know if you're on computers, you could use Loom, right? And Loom will transcribe it. The AI version of it will transcribe it. Yeah. What do you have there, Robby?
This is my Claude device. And I even wrote my own transcription, because this records audio, and it has a service that'll do it for you, but I wasn't really happy with it. So I wrote my own, again, playing way out of my league. So now cool. I just share my audio files with my computer, and my computer, it automatically triggers a workflow and it transcribes it the way I want it transcribed. So, yeah.
Right. You could use Evernote. You could use another one we have called Letterly. There's several now where you're talking, and then the AI will summarize it, clean it up. I've recorded whole hour-long sessions of training sessions with Letterly, and then all of a sudden it's done, and then I have a whole summary of everything that just happened, and it was all done with AI.
Yeah, and that in the Apple Notes, I know a lot of people aren't even aware of that. I find myself showing people that if you open up a new note and you hit the paperclip button, you get the option to record audio. And then there's another little button on there that basically says whether or not you turn the transcription on or off. But if you have an iPhone, it's like a built-in transcription service that, and same thing, like what you were saying, Brad, it'll transcribe your audio for hours. It'll just keep going and going and going.
Exactly. Well, John, you've been pretty quiet over there. This is almost unheard of. I know that your wheels are turning.
Yeah. No, so the things that you've touched on, Robby, and it just the layers as we keep adding. So recording your stuff, whatever that turns out to be with whatever device you record it in, and then building it. The next layer, putting it into a table, putting it into a database, having it collected somewhere, whether it's Google Docs and Jonathan Mast and Notebook LM where you can ask against it, whether it's an Airtable like you're talking about, and having a little bit more sophistication where you upload, download your audio, it goes in, it separates this and then puts it somewhere. All of those kinds of things are fully actionable and not, again, it's not like, oh, can we build this over the next 2 months? It's like, can we build this in the next 72 minutes with somebody like Robby around us kind of idea, or looking it up or doing, depending on how technical you are, can you and the need for that in every single home service business, small business, big business. You sit down with your doctor, you sit down with your lawyers, you sit down with your accountants, you take your phone, you put it there and you record it so that when you're done, that drops into a table. It organizes your messy life. Nobody needs to look at my desk right now at the things that I keep in front of me because I'm worried that, my brain will forget about them. Therefore, there's certain things I want to keep as visual cues that I have to get to that we can, if we let it go and trust, put that into an AI world and have a prompt, have a task. Hey, can you give me a summary at the end of the day or at the beginning of the next day or at the end of the week, or just triage the stuff I'm giving you, and help me out here and create a little bit of that lift because you've put the data into the right places. And the average person might think that, oh my gosh, that is a project. If it wasn't for the lovely people that we know, Yesenia and Josh, I would have said charge them $1 million or $100,000 because you happen to know where to tap, to fix the engine. You're the man with the wrench that just knew how to tap against it. And that's what you get paid for. Right. But, in our world, I think it opens up a whole lot of thoughts and opportunities for anybody listening to this. This isn't months away and years away, even in your own business. Think of the ideas, try it once, bring somebody in that can help you get started if you need to, whatever, but put it in practice so that it just becomes next, right? The what if, as you said, like, what if I could do this? What if I could do that? And all of a sudden you open up a million what ifs, right? So, and go from there. Because I think that's part of the lesson here is once you start exploring and playing, the world just opens up in front of you.
Well, maybe Robby can bridge this, mentioned intended.
Bridging it.
Yes, definitely intended. But based on what John was just saying, can you give our listeners and our viewers an idea of what an AI flow would look like in a typical morning? So if you have just provided all this information to whatever listening, but how would you say a typical morning with the flow would work?
You mean like for the way I do it, or
yes, yeah.
Okay, so I do my personal and my professional life. I utilize AI across the board. Mm-hmm. Now, this is like one of those things. Like, I love putting pen to paper for like journaling and stuff like that. Like, again, it all comes back to flow, right? Flow is the ultimate source of life satisfaction, is finding that place. And part of accessing flow is there has to be room for it. If the brain's trying to hold on to too much, now this is the science of it, right? But if the brain's trying to hold on to too much, you're removing one of those potential flow triggers. So I love pen to paper and I love writing, but a lot of times I find that it works better if I wake up in the morning, do my morning routine. I go for a walk. I'll open up my Claude project, which is dedicated to my journal. This is my journaling. And as I'm walking down the road, I will just hit the record button and start talking to Claude. I go through my gratitude practice. I'm grateful for this. Looks like the weather's nice today. Oh, this is what I got to do today. I got this on my list, this, and this. I'm getting it out of my brain. And a lot of times I'll go to bed thinking about something and I wake up and I've kind of started finding a solution to it, right? So I'll go ahead and dump that. I'll get that out of my head and start building on things. And then as I go through the day, like I really got, one of the skills I developed was breaking things down into projects. Therefore, I can set up a project space for different elements of what I'm doing professionally, what I'm doing personally. If I'm preparing for a vacation, I'll set up a project. So any notes that come up regarding that vacation, I could just dump right in there and create an artifact and add it to the project knowledge base. So I don't know. Am I answering your question?
You are, because again, to John's point, it's just, okay, go ahead and just, get it all out. We can see how that would open up that movement, that flow, that conversation and such. It was just, wondering how you organized it based on what he was recommending to our listeners and our viewers. I think that you nailed it on that. And I guess one other follow-up question would be, you said that you do it for personal and for business. For somebody going, wait a minute, I don't want things to cross, wires and stuff. Could you go into explaining, in case they didn't catch an earlier episode of projects? You're just not talking about a typical way we would explain projects. That's an actual asset within ChatGPT. If you want to go into that, as to keeping personal and business separate, how you would make recommendations for that.
So taking it, a lot of it has to do with naming. It really does. It's getting really good. So essentially, when AI first came out, everybody was talking about prompt engineering. I never jumped on board with prompt engineering. It actually took me more effort to use other people's prompts than it did for me to just talk it out. I would always get to my desired outcome quicker when I just talked out what I was trying to accomplish, rather than to go hunt down a prompt, or even if I had, a whole library of different prompts, I would still have to go hunt it down, and then I'd have to tweak it. And I found it was so much easier just to say exactly what I'm going through and what I want to happen as a result. So I never got on board the prompt engineering thing. It just never clicked for me. And thank God, because that would have actually stalled me out, in my opinion. Context engineering, now that hit way more to home. I was already doing my version of that, but they had a nice name for it. I like the name. It's like context engineering. That makes more sense. And I think where I'm going with that in relation to your question, it's essentially information architecture. Like, that's essentially what we're doing with AI. AI is turning us all, at least if we're going to really get the most use out of it, we all have to become some form of information architect, where we have the information organized in compartments so that when we access that AI layer on top, it has all the right context for that particular thing. So whether that's context around a personal issue or project or aspiration or a professional one, it all has to do with where it's accessed and what information is available on the other side of that access. So one of my go-tos that I absolutely love is like when Claude came out with the MCP servers, and like the easiest one to gain access to without having any issues was the file system or the desktop commander. And it's this AI layer directly on top of the file management system inside a Mac computer. That blew the top off for me. That was the absolute game changer. That, in my opinion, is the absolute context engineering that isn't as complicated as it sounds. It's just basically this folder, access the terminal or the project knows exactly what folder to go to and say, this is where all the information happens and related to this topic. So I don't know that was a direct answer, but that's essentially how I operate, is primarily with the file manager.
We all are getting great information from that. So thank you.
Absolutely. And can you kind of dig into that? Because, that might even be a little bit over most people's heads of exactly like what can that actually do? Right. So can you give us an example there? So if you're working in Claude and it can access your files, which a lot of people are like, ooh, I don't know about that. Right. But if it can, what are some of the things that you can do with that?
Geez. It's like the possibilities are endless, but the AI's performance and its ability to give us what we really want from it is like so dependent on the context it has available. Like, for example, let's say you're trying to learn something like maybe like you're diving into something like engineering, or specifically bridge engineering, and I'm just throwing it out there. And let's say you know nothing about this topic. You have to two things. Number one, you got to have all the information available to the AI so that it can grab the information and explain it to you. But here's another aspect of it. The way I learn, Chris, is going to be different than the way you learn, is going to be different than the way Laura learns and Jen learns. We all learn differently. We all see different patterns. We all have different backgrounds. And that's the one thing that can be part of the context. My AI can know when explaining new concepts to Robby, explain through construction language, because Robby has a background in construction. So when it starts talking to me about what a utility folder is in a repository, which is all kind of coding language, we're getting into like GitHub and stuff like that. It's like your utilities is kind of like your utility closet, where you've got your electrical panel, and maybe you've got some tools in there, and you've got some WD-40, and like that's where all your tools are. We can go grab our tools when we need them. Like, oh, that makes perfect sense. I get it. And your AI can know what you need to understand as long as you give it that context. Like, hey, my background's in cosmetology, so when you explain things to me, explain it through cosmetology, or explain it through, anything, whatever the background actually is.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Awesome.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And just that layer that Robby was talking about, in case it does get missed by some people, because I didn't realize I had downloaded Claude Desktop. So you could have be on the free plan, be on the pro plan, go to Claude, get an account, whatever, just sign in. But they have a desktop app. And if any of the listeners have been into ChatGPT, so these MCPs are just a protocol that connect one thing to another. Think of, the internet has decided that the MCP protocol is the one that's going to work. So, everybody has to decide that, think of Apple when you go to plug in your iPhone and then your friend's got an Android, like Brad, and it's like, hey, my phone's dying. Sorry, I can't help you, buddy. That happens all the time when we sit, we meet up at somewhere and it's like, oh, okay, I can't do that. But everything being the same mean they plug in together. So MCP just means it's a common protocol that can plug into stuff. So Claude allows you to download the desktop app as well, log into your account, and now the connectors aren't just going out to the web. The connectors are to your computer. So when he meant file system, it means your files in your Windows computer or whatever, kind of things like that. And you can get it to do, control your Chrome browser as an app on your computer. So it layers over top just as any other app on your computer, but it can now you gave it the rights to connect inside your computer. So now all of a sudden you're not building something out in the web that you have to log in and do. You're building like the Claude can now actually live inside your device and your desktop as well. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear for some people, because, we're all used to using these LLM interfaces out on the web. Open a browser up first and use them. And I do think that's a really cool tool that Claude came out. I don't know if anybody else has got it, but that it's an app that can interact with your computer itself. So they kind of beat Microsoft to the punch. There isn't really sort of an AI layer in the operating system really yet, but Claude kind of said, well, we got one started for you. So
yeah, but by the way, that's coming. Right.
It is. Yeah.
Windows just announced that they are building it into Windows, right? 11. Yes. and it's actually available now for beta testers. That Copilot can do a lot of these things, what you're talking about here, and then some, kind of thing. So it's coming. Windows is finally, Microsoft is finally coming around. You know, they're the Titanic, you know, when like Claude is like a little sports, I guess a sports car, and Titanic wouldn't be a good, you know, analogy. Maybe more like a sports boat versus the Titanic.
Whatever you call
cigar
those
boat.
things,
Yeah. So it's coming. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's the reason why everybody needs to jump in and play, is because it's like, so I should stop and do that. No, once you learned it over there, then when the other one shows up, it's like, oh, that was like this. Oh, and it's better over here. Like, again, Google was the slow moving machine as well. And all of a sudden they just went boom, 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 boom. And it's like, like they just showed, and now we're going to throw ads into all of this too. So if you don't run Google ads, you know, whatever, because they're going to get everybody back into their ecosphere, add more, and then throw ads on top, right? It's just like, way to go, Google. Like, you did it again, right? And that's what it feels like right now, unless somebody else leapfrogs yet again. So, so jump in now is the best time. The best time was a year ago, 2 years ago, a month ago, or right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Robby, thank you so much for joining us here today. We're coming up to the top of the hour here. So if you will, let everyone know here how they can get hold of you and get in touch with you and hire you to help them with their AI stuff.
Yeah, so Bridge.Ninja, that's it. It's not Bridge.Ninja.com, it's Bridge.Ninja. I do have to update the website, but you can find us there. We're also on LinkedIn. We've got a Facebook page. I got my daughter's working with me on the project, so of course we're on TikTok as well.
Fun.
So yeah, feel free to reach out. Go ahead and contact us, and we'll be happy to have a conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Well, be sure and like, share, tell everybody about the AI marketing experts, because it's super cool and everybody will love it.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right, guys. Great hanging out. We'll see you all next time.